Okay, welcome back again to the business competencies and competitive strategies. We have this is the continuations on of what we have discussed uh, on operations management on competencies and 5S, which we talk about from the physical. We first talk about capitals and the labels, isoquants. And then slowly we move to physical data isoquants, and as we gain more data, we gain more understandings. As you can see from the left, the more data that we have, such as today we have because of the technologies prevalence, we have the big data. And so again, the more data we have, the more understandings uh, we gain, if provided we have the right tools, analytics tools to comprehend all those data and turn those data into knowledge. And the more knowledge we have, the more we can apply it, such as design and agile supply chain. Okay, looking into the networking, looking into the visibilities of data, looking into the types of operations, the value co-creations, or the flexibility of it, or the responsiveness of it. Again, all this agile supply chain management. So with the from this isoquant, and we can see that as we gain experience along this isoquant, as we get experiences learning by experience involving in the supply chain management or operations management, we will gradually transform the conventional supply chains, looking into forecastings and inventory, into a more real-time, data-driven, automated type of agile supply chain. And with the instruction, I mean the algorithm, the supply chains becomes more and more agile. But again, we have to be very careful, because sometimes we think that we are really doing the right things. It is only right in certain context and certain environment. Uh, Eventually, it will turn harming to us, against us, such as in the past we talk about just in time, JIT concepts in operations, and then we all move into JIT. But then who suffers? Sometimes we are forcing the suppliers to set up huge inventory systems right next to us, so that they can provide us just in time. So we are just in time, but they are not just in time. And so if they go bankrupt, if their cost goes up, then they will not be creative, right? Because they are having stress. And so we have to be really, really careful, winning, win-wins. We have talked about me-we world in this 5S operation systems and for sustainability. And I hope that you understand my point. Okay, and so we have already understood, and I have given you a very systematic structures of understanding operations based on 5X, starting with, for instance, the set up the categorizing what kind of machineries and things that you need to do, and arranging it according to functions, and then you set your operation sequence and production sequence in orders, and then you make sure you get your quality controls ready, or sharing it and creating your flows, the hygienic purpose conditions, such as using, if you're in food industry, such as using the GMPs and HACCP, and then from there you can work on it, and then gradually you standardized it, and also make sure that setting up a disciplines, right, and instilling corporate cultures for them, and then you can gain your productivity improvement, and quality of life will increase, and be gained accordingly. and if you look carefully, therefore, it is all about uh, uh, very systematic input output process, right? It's very simple operations design in your system, and this is operation system design. If you look broadly, you will know that it is a very simple structure: input, process, output, input, process, output, input, process, output. And we take input in terms of resources, and the institutional expectations, such as it could be your policies, right? It could be the uh, rules and regulation in the societies, and so on and so on and so forth. So it's really it's a lot of the issues dealing with all this situation. Now, if you focus on this policy, for example, the institutional expectation, the policy choices have a lot of implications for example, and because those are your rules and regulations internally or externally. So assumes that policy choices are internally, and so they do drive your cost and differentiation. For example, decisions on the weight of your product line, the product itself, the quality level, service features, credit facilities, etc., all affect cost, and that also affect the actuals and perceived uniqueness of the product to the consumers, and hence a genuine dilemma can arise if the trust of the generic strategy is not clear. So it is very, very important that we have the sectoral policies clear. Do we really want cost? Do we really want a low price strategy for our cost, for our product to the consumers? If so, and there is only one leaders, cost leaders in the industry, and so do you want it? Do you want to be this way? If you want, then your whole operation systems will follow that operation policy choices, right? But if you uh, want your institutional policy choices internally, again, I'm saying, of course, there are government issues such as pollution control, but if you want differentiated, then again, it's a whole a different story. You have to look into policies in the sense of different ability to differentiate your product and services and your brands and your services, and so whichever operations you're doing in the as defined by the finance will be guided according to the policies. Okay, and so this is institutional very, very important. We have talked about external institution in terms of green, such as green's compliance, right? The compliance with the rules and regulations of the government can also be very, very important innovations driving force. I mean, it forces you to be innovative, right? And take that innovation capabilities and competencies and opportunity as entrepreneurial opportunities and things like that. So it's all interlinked with each other, right? And and your culture is also an expectation, right? Orientation, your cultures are all a form of expectation, right? It's a cognitive expectations, a certain directional expectation, strategic expectation, competitive expectation. And when we talk about resources, when we talk about resources, I have shared with you the VRIO. So your resources are valuable, sense of value to the customers. So you need to assume value creations for the customers, and also the threat ability to reduce the threat, and it cushions the threat, counteract the threat, and exploit the opportunity, and that is also valuable, something that you are not able to do with the SWOT SWOT capabilities framework, and that means you're not able to generate profit, right? Attractive attractive profits. And so that means that it is not valuable. So it's variable. Something is variable to your customers, it's very valuable to you, and you need to do and position yourself against for instance, in terms of your SWOT, SWOT, you need to position yourselves or do certain marketing strategies in terms of attacking the way the weaknesses of the of the uh, of the competitors, right? So that is also in terms of the uniqueness, right? We talk about and we talk about the uh, uh, all kind of attack. It could be frontal attack, which is characterized by an all-out attack on the opponent's territory. It could be flanking attack, which in contrast to those frontal attack, the flanking attack seeks to concentrate on the competitor strength. I mean, your own strength against the competitor's weaknesses, right? SWOT, relative speaking. And it also can variable in the sense of and positioning yourselves rightly by in times of the requirements, because of if you don't do that, you're not able to grow your product and services. So you need to build some power, right? So that by building certain powers, and your product and services can stay put and be marketed, especially in the growth industry. So therefore, you need to have this make use of your SWOT, right? And so, for instance, in circumvent attack and or consist of enveloping the environment. I mean, surrounding the environment, cutting them off the roads of supply to force capitulations of the competitors and things like that. And in other cases, if you feel that your strategies are your overall operation strengths are very much weak, and then you can probably do bypass strategy, things like that, which is by changing the battleground to avoid competitor stronghold. So again, resources management is very important. VRIO, something's not only valuable to customers and to you, but also you need to make sure that your products are not easily inimitable, not easily copied by the competitors, and something very unique to your companies, and get it organized of your resources, and so that you can have a continuing sustainable resource supply, right? So this is very, very important. Okay, so we have you can refer back to my previous YouTube on this situation on, but if you focus on this I5S in the sense of agile supply chain, which through the isoquants data, increase of data to wisdoms, to knowledge and wisdoms, then we are talking about the retransformations of your supply chains from conventionals to agile, in a sense of high degree of process in the interconnectivity. So you're exploiting network value co-creators and gains flexibility through the strength of each specific player. So you have to make sure that every specific players in your supply ecosystem has this capability. So you're making use of SW as of every individual player. So you're not playing in supply chain, you're extending your capabilities from others, from individuals, corporations, companies, focus to more to supply network competition. Okay, so you use a set of networks members to help you, and agile gains flexibility based on the network membership strength. Okay, and so everywhere has supply chain, but certain supply structure is in certain nation or certain geographical locations are very powerful because they have these specialist players, right? And ensure the data transparency, right? Because you need a lot of data, right, in order to allow you to visually, transparently see things. So supply chain partners relying on that virtuality and share informations on real-time situations, and we call virtual. And again, of course, flexibilities and would be the one of the operations objectives criteria, right? We talk about a lot of objectives, and we will brief you again on different types of objectives, such as operations objectives in the sense of speed and qualities and responsiveness, and flexibility is the dominant characteristics of agility. And there are a range of flexibility, how flexible you are in terms of volume, how flexible you are in terms of your timing, responsiveness, and how flexible are you in terms of different types of varieties of products. So we're talking about all kind of range and response flexibilities and things like that. So these overall features of general supply chains, and I hope that and you can summarize those in terms of your business model. And so your business model need to be aligned with this supply chains characteristic and systems. Okay, and then you will generate a lot of required output. And of course, it's because of your agility, you know, your output customer service will be higher level. So if you study this operations management, you will know that the level the up customer service can be lower level to the upper levels, to the higher levels. Okay, so without you studying the supply chain, you in these business competencies, and if you do it well, competency driven through the agile supply chain, you get competitive advantages, right? Okay, because of your quickness, responsiveness, flexibility, and so so they are both, as I always repeating again and again, competitive strategies and competencies are both side of a same coin, right? Okay, so because without your competency, you are not able to compete, right? Competitively compete, and so competency is part of your competition, right? It's part of the weight of your competition. That is what we mean by both sides of the same coin. And my way of presenting supply chain is from the management theory perspective. So the students of supply chains will gain a different perspective from a simple operations perspective, because when I work in the practical industry for a long time, and as a vice president and a group chairman, general technical managers for conglomerate companies, 200 plus companies. So we need to be very holistic in our cognition and operations management theory. Management competency is one of our differentiated skills if you are in the higher positions. Okay, so in a structured sense, you can see that these input process of 5x to output. Okay, so 5x in the sense of we have the resources, institutional expectation, which is the input, and the process is the 5x, which is structures and sorting things, and then setting in order, shining, sanitizing, quality checking, controls, and standardization, systematizations and self-disciplines, and all this 5x, right? And then we generate the output. And they both we have already explained it. I have already explained it in another previous YouTube. You can go to my YouTube and look carefully in terms of how these 5x guided the operational design. So for a startup, new ventures and entrepreneurship class students, or those entrepreneurs, you can use this simple input, process, output, okay, and input resources and institutional, both internal, external rules and regulations, internal in the sense of your expectation. Vision, mission is also part of your culture orientation, market orientations, marketing orientation, entrepreneurial orientations. All these are expectation. This expectation, behavioral expectations, cognitive expectations, innovation expectation will drive your operation, right? And nowadays with the algorithmic artificial intelligence and computers integration, really it's very simple, right? To design your system, okay? And so please, not that difficult to look at it, and each of them corresponds to things that you need to how you design your operation. So we're talking about first of all, we're talking about that you need to structures and sort things out of your machinery, that you need to invest and in terms of entrepreneurial ventures, all these are your initial outlays and investments, right? And those things you need to cost it out, cost it in, and then provide some funding, venture funding, right, for all this the setting system. And if you are already into operations, and hopefully you can have sufficient cash flow to continuously improve on those, and make sure that all your strategies utilize them properly, and marketing strategy utilize them properly, because there are very much linked to operations, objectives of operations, because they're going to deliver operations in terms of qualities, responsiveness, flexibility, and all these dependabilities and all these issues, and make sure that your marketings are aligned with them. And again, so it's really, once it's already in the operation, it is how you have sufficient business model capabilities and attractiveness to operate on those operations and improve on them, right? And then gradually you may shift your isoquant, okay, data, physical isoquants, and maybe transcend them through reparadigmatic reparadigms and technological transformation that can also help you to transform all the systems, such as when you are sorting up the facilities layout, and sometimes you can use flexible manufacturing system, and that would give you a lot of flexibility in terms of your setting orders, right? So your process designs will be much customizations in that sense, and your flowing would be much faster, okay, and things like that. So we're calling cell technologies and much easier to control. Hygienically, and supporting infrastructures will be, and your human resources will be more concentrated on multitask skill and more empowerments and enrichments, and so different human resource strategy, different things will come into the picture to support your all this. These are called sharing, right? So sharing, it's involved a lot of coordinations, collaboration, human resources supporting infrastructures, your secondary, all the secondary activities in your value chains are also playing a very important sanitizing and sharing growth, and then standardization to your ISO 9001 quality management system, 22000 in terms of food manufacturing system, and material master production scheduling, and then which would then give you the basis for material requirements planning, both for resources and in terms of human resources, and plus your mass automation scheduling and things like that. Okay, so these are all these operational details. Okay, and we are now competing on a network of ecological system. So really, it's supply chain management or business eco system supply chains. No problems. You can change the name, and each of the members will do the same thing again. So it is really a set of operation, right? And therefore, you can see that these operational details of 5S do cover all these supply chain operations structures, right? And level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 setting the things up in scopes and context so that you know what you're going to do and what you're going to get from the product and services and where and so on and so forth. So it's kind of laying the groundwork for all the supply chain. So you're looking into supply chains from that it's going to reach everywhere, right? Your supply network, just like US, just like China's, when they look into the high railroad, and they really know the design of where it is going and what kind of goods and services to wagon where and which location has special resources and how you're going to connect them. And all this are level 1, right? You lay out sorting things in order, sort those things in orders, and then from there, then you can flexibly using your technology, high speed, right? Whatever train to design it, whether you have, it depends on your money, right? And so you can come to level 2 competency. So and that is really nothing but deliverable competencies in the sense of how you're going to do it. In operational sense, simple operational sense would be whether you want to make to stock or you want to make to orders or you want to engineer to orders, depending on some customizations, big projects. And then from there, you can get into, once you decide how you're going to do it, outsourcing or making it by yourselves or through global collaborations or maybe international or companies setting up and things like that. And all these are level 2. And then from there, you can get into all this detail, right? Work, get it done, right? Get it done. The product realization. So you can go to ISO 9001 and you can understand how you're going to execute the activity. It tells you, the quality manuals will tells you in each of the how you're going to get your process done from one end to the other end. So it's an end-to-end activity. So supply chain management and operational details and the 5S concepts and in order to achieve the outputs of product and services deliver properly in quality forms and responsively, responsiveness and speed and qualities and brand equity and competitive advantages all come from all these issues. So you can really study competitive advantages by looking into how competitive you are relative to your competitors by analyzing each of the value chain activities, right? Which Michael Porter is already, Professor Michael Porter from Business Harvard Schools already given taught to you. So you can, you can go back and buy his book, and it's pretty thick, and then you can basically understand it. But otherwise, you can slowly understand it. Okay, and so you can look into all these operations and see how you can gain brand integrity, brand identity, and then deliver the necessary quality through your marketings and services and to influence the consumer behavior, generating eventually the brand concepts and so on and so forth. So you can see everything it's interlinked. All these competencies are for competitive strategy driven, and they are holistically linked to each other. So we call system theory, or we call complexity theory in the sense. Okay, so have already in simple page, we have covered many. We have cross-discipline from human resources all the way to supply chains, operations, and marketings, and consumer behaviors, and things like that. And so, a lot of things you can do. So that means good. That means that the theory, the 5X that I propose, which is uniquely arranged in this way, it's workable. It's very effective, and I hope that this is my contribution to you to be a competent world-class managers. Okay, because I have operated in world-class companies, and we learned about world-class way of doing things. Okay, from my experiences with the world-class operations and also my friendship with Honeywell and all these big companies. Okay, so if you again, if for those research students, you can or if for those regular students, you can as I already mentioned, a couple of institutional things. So you can look into the resource best views theories and institutional theories, or how you're going to collaborate with each other through organizational capabilities, or making sure that that you have dealt a good relationship with the outsourcings and make to orders, and or make to stocks or whatever. So we're talking about transactions, cost economy. So anyway, there are a lot of theories you can apply, right? And to knowledge base and dynamic capability, and adapting your capability to emerging opportunities and things like that, so that you can continue to redesign your machines and process design and flow and things like that, and so that you can maybe better able to reduce your inventory. So you can look at all kind of different types of theory in order to give you more insight and knowledge to help you operate all this finance, such as signaling theory in the sense of communications, integrated marketing communications, IMCs, and or just a normal communications theories and information theory in the sense of the ability to get your informations and signals across to be able to influence the let people know how good you are and how integrity you are and how honest you have you are in your operations, and therefore bring trust and things like that. So again, there are many different types of theories involved. You can really apply. Okay, so I hope you get the sense. We don't need to go into all these details. Okay, and you can just Google around. Okay, and so what happened is that for instance, we can based on this physical data isoquants, you can really transform your whole operations and supply chain management. For instance, if you put a lot of the integrate all this data, right? If you're moving yourselves all the way to data, and then make sure that your customers are able to obtain your data, your data, see the real situation, and not only data, you transform those data into informations for your customers to digest. Okay, and so therefore the customers can then use that data and information and to help them design, and rather than you design, and they can see and adapt themselves, and maybe you can create some applications so that they can easily customize themselves. So customer become your co-creators. So you shift your innovations responsibility to the customers. So the customers will then do some prototypes, and maybe the prototypes will through the applications, and sensors product. Send design a blueprint to the machine, right? And the machines will then read the CAM code and then send the signals to the automated manufacturing productions and machining system, and then they will automatically scheduling it and run the G codes. I think in the productions we are talking about G codes. We have used those a long time ago, and then for machining and for whatever, and then those G codes are the ones that will interact with the hydraulics and pneumatics and this PLC, programmable logic control systems, and then automated mass production, and then generate again a lot of data and so on and so forth. So you can see that this physical data isoquants, it really, if you spend time on it, you can come up with a lot of creative ideas on your operations improvement and design, and therefore it may increase your funding in the beginning, but it really reduces all your maintenance costs and your your back and forth with the customers, and so you're preserving, you are sustaining the green efforts, and carbon footprints goes down, and at the same time innovations ideas goes up, and speeds product life cycles goes down, and things like that, right? I mean, the speed goes up and the life cycles shorter and shorter. And so all this issue really depends on data, which is called performance measurements, right? It generates a continuous improvement through this isoquants life cycle. Okay, and if for those students who are research, I often, if you go to many of my YouTubes in terms of research research methodologies, you will realize that I always, when I do the research, when I share the research, when I guide students to doing the research, for me, it's always just simple concepts, which is interaction and the cyclical interactions of theory and data. So this is where what research is all about. And so if you put this, what I have just explained it to you in terms of the input, process, output to the 5X and the supply chain and operations and all this into theory and data format, you will see, right, you gain a different perspective. You know, that means that you're turning your supply chain and operations management into scientific or science-based routine, right? Routine is a strategy. Routinization is a competitive strategy, right? If you go, there are and practices is a strategy as practice is a huge discipline in strategic management. So this can be considered treated as a strategy as practice, which is a competitive strategy. Okay, so and mastering this cyclical theory data competencies in the sense of induction, deduction, generate tremendous organizational intelligence. Okay, and because of your intellectual intelligence, you also gain emotional intelligence because you're focusing on stakeholders, not selfishly on yourself. So we are also talking about spiritual intelligence. So you can see that all kinds of intelligence comes into the pictures. And so these competencies really, if you put into a strategic directional perspective, it generates competitive strategy. Okay, so this is very, very, very important issue. Theories, we have already talked about all kinds of theory, all these theories, for instance, cognitive theories or resource-based theory, VRIOs or agency theory, how you can, you know, interconnect with all the specialist players in the to be agile managements, and then through the theory, you diffusions, you incorporate the diffusions or innovation theory, which was not revealed before easily, and then now from there, you know that in order to get your employees and your stakeholders to understand, you got to diffuse. You got to be able to diffuse. So how are you going to diffuse? Are you going to diffuse with certain ways, certain attributes? Maybe get your people to trial, or maybe get your employees to learn, or maybe get your network members to observe and you know, come and visit. Right? I also visited Alibaba's in the I forget the places near Shanghai, so by observing and triabilities and you know, quantifying our all this theory and apply and adapting and in alignments with what we do on the routine basis, we can get a diffusion of theory easily, right? So for instance, if I when I was a vice president, making decisions on whether to purchase very expensive production systems, I can fly to Singapore, right? And then I can try it on it, and that's diffusion, right? Diffusion of technology, and you have to pay me to try, right? So who paid the money for me to go to Singapore? Singapore, right? They have to pay the money, and I may not buy the product, right? And because it's expensive, and you fly me, and I spend times there, and you put me into hotels and a 5-star hotel and things like that. Okay, so diffusion of technologies comes into the picture. And once that is done, and then slowly we can get into activity and action, right? And so it's a research, right? A theory, you got to implement your hypothesis, meanings you have to look at your in your operations and execution. So value creations, value productions, value delivery, value experience, value captures, all these business models and operations issues. And again, it involved with so many theory, right? Path dependency theories, whether that the way you design your business models and your operations are really only you know, and that because you have certain ISO 9001 systems, certain types of cultures, certain types of operations, or certain types of experiences, and all these are not known to the outside people. So it's really depending on yourself. So it's path dependence theory, and things so on and so forth, and dynamic capability view. And then from there, you generate the competitive advantages. Again, that is obviously is a competitive strategy issue. So this induction, deduction, and B-test really types of processes and competencies really are competitive strategy, right? And so the competitive advantages also how competitive you are. It turns into data, and so you have to pick up those signals and data of performances. And again, using information theory signaling, you can design how you can visualize those data, informations, and knowledge, and then you reflect on it and organizational learning. And a lot of theories involved in organizational learning. We have single loop learning, we have double loop learning, we have triple loop learning, we have tutorial learning, and we have so many different types of intuitive learning, things like that. And then from there, and then plus knowledge managements, inducements of the link. And then from there, you can generate a lot of theories and back and forth, cycle sense, right? And then and not only the theory, but you also need rules and regulation and vision and mission, so that you can use your theory in a organized way. So that's the stakeholders, institutional, social network theory, social embedment theory, structuration theory, the institutional rules and regulation, vision and mission, complexity theory also comes into the picture on top of your theories and innovation and resource space, right? So you can see that for those who are masters and PhD students, maybe they were, hopefully able to make full use of this page. If you're research students, you probably would love it and like it, because it gives you enlighten you to how you're going to search for theory, and so you can explain your business organizations. And this is my contribution, dedication to you, and I hope that you really be benefited from you. And it's just nothing but another manifestations of your 5S, which in an input, process, output, and in a cyclical sense. So you have we have the planning, right? We have the planning and the purpose, right? And then this planning and purpose, planning in the sense of your business strategy, your business plan, and your objective, your operation strategy, competitive priority, whether you want to prioritize on qualities, or you prioritize simultaneously quantity and speed, or flexibilities, or whatever. And then and the purpose is to involve with a long range objective, or medium range, or short range, or maybe you need to pivot on certain operational objectives, or whatever. Really depends on you. And then from there, you design, you explore your supply chain management to help you and also design and help you operate on your place, right? In your people, your practice, and your process. So it's really looking into P. This is just turning the 5S into different concept called P. So marketing, we have so many different types of P, and this operations and supply chains, we also talk about P. So we're talking about planning, purpose, place, your layout, your designs, and things like that, and your peoples and your practice, planning, design, forecasting, organizational learning processes, your process type design, can things like that, like time management, work in process, and time-based competitions, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then you generate a set of outputs. Okay, performance, which could be your business product, whatever, operations, objective, performances, and then the MAIC 6 Sigma, define, measurement, analyze, improve, and control, and continuous improvement. And then you not only to the market, but also you get the data back, and continuous improvements, or 6 Sigma, capability management, and then from there you can adjust and fine-tune your plans and purposes, and manage and lead your supply chain management in terms of agility, or adaptability, or alignments between each of the members, and also provide the input, informations, capital, workforce, and resources for you to do that. And your supply chain management here means that it includes those who supplies your funding, right? So we're talking about capitals. Okay, so supply chains, it's a huge names. You can do it financially, operationally, raw materials, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, so in a sense, if you look into the Michael Porter's 5 force analysis, which are of course important in the sense of the structures in guiding the behavior. So that is the input, right? Which we have talked about it. So before you design the behavior of your 5X systems, you can also explore the structure, right, of your industry. And this structure is the bargaining of power of suppliers, bargaining of customers, and strengths and new entrants and things like that. And if you look carefully, what I'm trying to say is, if you look carefully in this 5 force, you will see that this vertical zone of each other's competing with each other. I mean, each competition with each others in the industries, and the threat of new entries coming in again to take on your cake and portions of your cake, and then somebody replacing your product and services. All these are product competition space. Okay, and so it's a knockoff effect. But if you look into this supply chains scopes in your horizontal situations, or we talk vertical chain in that sense, and we are that is a relationship space. So you need to build supply chain relationship and customer relationship management, and the ability for you to move from the supplier all the way to customer. And that is also very important. That is the lead time, cycle time, flow time, and your value added and cost reduction. I mean, your waste reduction. So meaning value maximization. And so you can optimize an objective function. If you are mathematically strong, you can optimize an objective function that in view of certain constraints of your cycle times and lead time expectations, and flow time expectation, and all these infrastructures and facilities capabilities, and so on and so forth, right? And so from there, you can manage optimizations with the set of constraint. And so you can go through with whether linear programming or maybe some non-linear programming. You can non-linear. You can also simplify and into linear programmings in that sense, numerical sense. Okay, so quality promise outputs. Again, we have so many different types of outputs. I'm sure you're familiar with it already. You can imagine, I have already mentioned competitive advantage as part of the outputs, and also the brand equities. But if you really go into the operational terms, so we're talking about meeting or sitting customers' requirements, fitness for you is really the criteria for qualities, right? And zero defects. This is our target, and so you really have to make use of CPK graph, right? The CPKs, which you're trying to increase the CPK. So the more CPK you have, the more narrower the deviations, right? So because of your deviations get shrink to a very narrow zone. So that makes you to be able to be categorized and materialize your process into Six Sigma, right? And that is what we talk about: Six Sigma's organizations capability, or Six Sigma operations process capabilities, right? And make sure that in order to do that, your sanitizations and your clean, right? Sanitizing the 5X, which means machine maintainability, and all this has to come into the picture, so that things and the prominence, right? Competence and integrity are all sanities and sanitizations, and all these are hygienic factors. Without them, you're not able to produce to the expectations of your customers, okay, of your qualities controls and things like that. Okay, and empathy means paying attention to the requirements and voices of your next streamline of customers and your customers too. And so this again, so in conclusion, these pictures give you another pictures and general pictures of that you want to, at this moment, if you are focusing on supply chain ecosystems, so assuming that you are in control of the supply chain ecosystem through some applications that you platform that you develop, okay, and through your computerizations and artificial intelligence and so on and so forth, you need to the success and the integrity, the ability to operate it really depends on, again, institutions I have already shared, and the resources and the set of members and value chains, different types of value chains to support it, and then you and plus system and service infrastructure, okay, and then from there you can deliver your goods and services to any way you want, okay, in a very agile sense. And this is also another way of looking into the operations and management from really nothing but supply and demand. So we are talking about balanced, okay, and pivoting at this point, and where we have to balance between supply, customer demand and supply. So this balance really is nothing but a simple concept and how we design our operations and production systems, and especially is very useful for a business operation. So business operations really nothing but pivoting and through our operational objectives or our visions and mission, right? And where you want to locate your companies and maybe your information, and so therefore you can whether tune here, tune there, or balance it, right? So you can, for example, in this supply side, you can look into input process and then deliver the output, which is to the customer side, which is on the other side. So input, okay, and we have transform and transforming. So resources, every organizations, company, factories, operations need to transform and transforming resources. Transforming help you to transform the raw material to a set of the product and services. So this is transforming is the machineries and people, right? And capitals too. And all this get into the facilities in your production, and then turn into within certain inventory and capacity, how much you really want to see, how much you really want to do per time, right? And we have already talked about in a couple of times other sections on how we can design the capacities, such as the requirements of the customer divided by the number of hours that you have been able to, that your company is working on in terms of shift. And from there, you can determine the speed of your productions per day. And from there, you can do your machinery design and flexible manufacturing systems and things like that, and then that is how you can quickly automate your system. So automations are just designed in this kind of concepts, and from there you do your transportations and deliver your customers' value propositions to delight and satisfy the customers, and ensuring that that your operations effectiveness, efficiencies are covering both satisfactions and the object and the production's requirement. And the strategy effectiveness also need to not to forget about the creativity, because strategic advantages is not it's not like a dead, no motion, no emotion. You got to be creative, right? So creativity is really your strategy effectiveness, right? So I put into this page, I also try to reiterate and reinforce and emphasize that your operational designs in terms of competitive strategies and competency utilization in terms of strategy means that you have to be creative, okay? And creative in the sense of using the competence, right? All your productions, operations competency, and connecting and utilize it for customer delight, right? And which is commercialization. So we have this Competency in this operations management platform, which is creativity, okay, strategy effectiveness, guiding the operational excellence, competency, and the customer commercializations. Okay, and then from there, every activity that you use, it has certain cost times the units that you are able to sell, which is I mean the units that you sold, the units you produce, which is the cost structure, and cost of goods sold, right? In that sense, and the sales price times the unit cost, which is the revenue stream. So your revenue streams minus your cost structures will give you the profitability, returns on equity, returns on asset, and 3P contribution in the sense of not only profitability, but also for the people and also for the planet in terms of green justifications and your decision and your execution. So in a sense, the competitive strategies and business competency is turned into creativity, competence, and commercialization. And if you look carefully, this is really nothing but business model, right? Or you look carefully, this is really nothing but the familiar business model canvas, right? Which is the value creativity, right? Value creations, value productions in the competency, and value delivery in your commercializations, and value captures to your financial structure. And so, so this again can be interpreted in terms of business model, can be interpreted in terms of operations interfacings with the financial structure, and it can also look into the logistics and marketing in as part of the activity, and supply chains as an extra operation of it. So again, you can see this slide, these lectures really give you a very powerful understanding, and which my presentation is very concise, and it in fact is a couple of weeks of materials that we congested, a couple of the not only a couple of weeks, many disciplinary subjects are combined in such a concise forms to help you be able to entrepreneurially start up your operations, and also develop, for those who are already in operations, improve and transform your organizations into world-class company. Okay, so in a sense that we already looked at an operations concepts and operation strategy through the internal business competencies of the capacity, inventory, facilities, check on the resources, including intellectual capital, learning growth, and all kind of co-creations resources, and then to deliver the customer value propositions or operations performance objectives, which are really similar: dependabilities, the quality, the responsiveness, the time, the speed, blah blah blah. They're all the same, right? Operations, we call it operations performance objective. Customer, we call or marketing, or consumer behavior, we call it customers value proposition. So they're all the same thing, right? So we study marketing, we study operation. Are they similar? Yes, they're similar, right? There's just different way of languages and things like that. But and then from there we meet the customer's perspective and generate the revenues and so on and so forth. So this is really the reflections of the previous slide, and it's really the key thing is it's really the business model. The key thing is where do you pivot? Where do you pivot your operations concepts, and if something goes wrong, how are you going to pivot it? And so that pivoting concepts of new startup and entrepreneurship comes into this picture. So there are certain new language again, but they are not different from the real balanced pivotings. Okay. And so you can see that you can make use of all this capability and capacity inventory, make use of all the core competencies and supply chain management capability, and then and all these bundles of skills and resources that you have. Sometimes you're outsourcing, sometimes you need to build up yourself, and then you deliver the operations objectives or the customer value propositions, such as in terms of responsiveness and efficiency, which are two important operations requirements, right? Either you doing efficient in doing it, and then ability to respond flexibly or respond quickly or whatever, and targeting to the market segments, and then generate a lot of data and modify your strategy, which is the pivoting point, right? The strategy. So your continuous improvement will be continuous data collections will be put into your intelligence box controller, which is to help you to craft your adjust your strategy, which is the pivoting point that you have, and that has to be creativity, right? And involve SMART, SMART objectives, something that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely, and in consideration for the current and the future direction, some things like that. Okay, so this is just expectations in terms of the previous one, just iterating that process design when you get into the facilities, and that we have already discussed about it. The process design, either you process design through standardizations or with certain customizations or with servitizations, things like that, where that means that you're turning your product, manufacturing product to services, right? And then securing your investment, your incomes through the services that you provide to the utilizing your product and turn it into services and generating a continuous income. And when you talk about the custom and deliver, when you process deliver to customer, do not forget about also the internal customers. Okay, so I'm just trying to iterate again that the customer demand has both internal and externals, especially in operations management. If you forget about the internals customers demand, that is a serious disasters. Okay, so because the customers coming from end-to-end operations, so make sure that you understand all this, and again pivot to certain concept, right? So we will now go very quickly summarizing this slide, this lectures and coachings maybe is from the operations objective. So this basically in operations or supply chain, we have the, so if you want to design a factory or a productions or a service operations or a supply chain ecosystems through a platform that you design in your either in already existing companies or in a new startup ventures. These operations objectives, find very generic one. Okay, very important one that you need to cover. One of them is quality. Okay, another one is the speed. Okay, so you need to deliver quality product and services, right? And experiences. If you're talking about experience, maybe in tourism industries or hospitality industries or food and beverages industry, anyway, those are all quality, right? And so second thing is the speed. How quickly you're gonna deliver, and that speed advantages and how flexibly you are in delivering, and the cost advantages that you have, and are you able, the customers able to depend on you on time to deliver whatever things that they expected and wanted. Okay, and so this the 5 generic performance objective performance operations objectives. So if you want to design and invest your money on a production systems and operation on your machine, make sure that you whatever you design, you're able to create this 5 objective, and doing the right things gives you the quality advantage. Doing things fast gives you the speed, right? And changing what you do quickly and ability to change give you the flexibility, and do things cheaply give you the cost advantages, and do things on time, such as inventory control and intelligence inventory control system. You can turn your inventory management, right? This optimizations, blah blah blah, and turn it into inventory intelligence control systems. So no need to get headed with all this mathematics in inventory, right? And so anyway, there's you can incorporate this inventory control systems and with optimizations into master production schedulings and material requirements planning, and so it gives you the dependability advantages, right? Okay, so all these the details. If you're CEOs or senior managers like me before, we have to hands-on, but we can get our managers, factory managers, to help us work on all this technical detail. And operations. Okay, so is do the right things, which is to deliver the value to the customers. Okay, this is your operations, and you produce cheaply, cost effectively, give you the cost advantages. You do the things right, provide the error-free goods and services which are fit for purpose. You give you the quality advantages. There's different manifestations of what I explained. And do things fast, availability fast, give you the speed advantage. Do things on time, keep delivery promise, dependability. I have already explained it more in detail just now. And your ability to adapt your operations, like maybe through flexible manufacturing systems with high-tech robotics, and so that you can import all this graph, diagrams, CAM diagrams, and into the system, and they turn it into G codes and automatically instruct the machines to do the to generate the G coding and transform into programmable logic control systems and things like that. And so you can flexibly automate your system. And just give you a couple of examples, maybe it's one or two, and after that, I'm sure that you can, not necessary for me to go through every single things. Okay, and the PowerPoint has given to you. So, for example, doing the right things. If you do the right things externally, quality is why we need to do the right things, which is deliver as promised, right? Quality, right? Fitness for use, right? Because externally, quality is already the very important. If you cannot deliver something that doesn't make sense to people, right? So satisfaction, dissatisfaction will be a result of this. You doing the right things. Okay, and if they are not satisfied, customers are not satisfied, you know that you're not doing the right things. Internally, quality operations is important. Otherwise, you will have a lot of defects, and then you have to correct your defects, and then will increase your cost, right? So internally, quality operations both reduce your cost and increase that you can deliver on time reliably. So otherwise, you say, excuse me, internally, and then the downstreams, upstream, could you please send me 2 tons of product? But they're not able to do it because they internally they have a problem, right? Either they're wasting their own, they don't have enough resources, they don't have enough labor, they have maintainability issues in the machinery and failures, and some the floors is not properly controls and clean, and the bacteria counts are huge, and so again all this fire system, right? You can I have already explained it to you. So internally, quality operations both reduce cost and increase dependability. Without the excellence quality in operations, it is impossible and meaningless to undergo JIT transformation. So if we want to say go into, I want to pivot at just in time concept of balancing between my supply and demands according to this pivot JIT concept. How are you going to do? If you do not have capable competency in your operation system, how are you going to do? You can't do, right? So competitively, you want a JIT. Competitive strategies say you want a just in time, but if you don't have a business competency, how are you going to do? So the competitive strategies and just in time and the competencies that I just explained at the 5X, they're mutually supporting each other, right? So this is very important that please seriously look into the detail. And the qualities could mean different things to different industry. If I ask you to do a project in hotel, in hospitals. So you have to look into all kind of details on what exactly you want to do. Okay, so give you a couple of examples, like patients receive most appropriate treatment, and that is one part of the operation treatment. And treatment is carried out in the correct manners. Patients, the consultants, the care informed staff, the courteous, friendly, and health. Those are all part of the hospitality. Hospital applications environment. And if you're in automobile, then it's a different story. For instance, for example, if I ask you to design catalytic converters, but your catalytic converters are producing a lot of carbon dioxide, and that means that maybe your coating has a problems, or maybe your honeycomb design has flaws, or maybe I don't know, and things like that, or maybe there's so many other issues, right? And so the qualities is a different different context, different meaning. And so I have already talked about quality function deployments and how you're going to deploy your operation system in such a way that deliver the quality, and that really depends on how you can understand the customer's requirement. The better you understand the customer requirement, the accurate customer's requirements will be able to transform into operations specification, and then you can look into the the dependabilities and the correlations of this operations requirements, and then you can because every design design means the system is already accomplished, and the system accomplished means that different variables are correlating with each other, right? And so how they correlate with each other will determine your operations objective, and then how good you perform. That is called benchmarking in the operations, and how much effort you need to improve your operation, or how much effort you need to improve your customer expectations, or customers' value propositions, or operations objective. That is benchmarking competitors analysis, right? So you have competitor analysis on the one hand of customer, and you have the benchmarking on your operations, and that forms the structures of quality function deployment, QFD. We call house of quality, HOQ. And so again, you can look into another of my YouTube site, and I hope that you get very pictures on operations management. Okay, so you can very easy that you can apply competitive strategies, competencies, and ethics protocols in all these areas, and things like that. So again, this is just I have already talked about operations quality. You can talk about flexibilities. You can talk about other things, right? For example, in flexibility, if you can reduce time, flexibilities will automatically improve. So you have to, before you touch on operations flexibility, you have to design your process in such a way that can reduce the time. And how you're going to reduce the time, such as changeover times of your, when you want to change from one shift to another shift. Do you have a proper operations guideline procedure, and plus the design of the machinery in such a way that you can clean your machine, especially in food production area, that you can clean your machine as fast as possible. Otherwise, it could take a long time to clean. Because from one production shift to another production shift, every production shift has different bacteria profile, and this different conducts and behaviors of your food operations creates different bacteria count, and which not meeting the requirements for the next batch expectation, and therefore that will the time that you spend on cleaning, which is shining and sanitizations, will reduce your operations flexibilities and things like that again. So please work on it. And again, if you increase your capability of your technologies, such as flexible manufacturing systems, robotics, which I have illustrated, you can improve your flexibility. Though again, there's so many different ways of increasing the, if you have the money, investment, right? You can, and plus your knowledge capitals, right? Intellectual capital, financial capital. You can employ the managers to, the engineers to help you design and improve your flexibility, right? So not a big problem. Okay, so therefore I will not systematically go through. I assume that now you get what I mean. You can please read it by yourself. Okay, and this is just waste minimizations, lean productions, right? When you design the operation system, when you take in orders, you have to go through an operation system, and that operation system, if that is the lean management systems, lean operation system, so you have to make sure that you are when you design your operations, try to consider not much waiting time. So you got to reduce your waiting time, waiting to be processed, and sometimes you process, over process, assess movement, assess processing, assess transportation. All these are just the wastings of value addition. It doesn't really add value to your customers. Therefore, it produces cost that is unnecessary, and therefore you reduce your margin and your capability, right? Because your willingness to pay and your cost is getting lower, and you're touching with each other, and so you're not able to sell. So you have to lean so that the willingness to pay and your cost gaps increases. And this is what lean management is for. And this is really simple management concepts and simple world-class companies concept. And make sure that it's not a SaaS stores, because you have to pay a lot of interest rates to cover your inventory, electricities, and paying people, and in and out, and then troubleshooting your stocks, things like that, and blah 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 blah, and make a lot of rectifications or mistakes. And all these are just 7 waste that you need to focus. Okay. And so you can read it by yourself, just different manifestations. And in terms of process design, operations process design, and really depends on the degree of flexibility that we're still on the flexibility side, but you can read it by yourselves. It basically, you already understands from the quality perspective the flexibility, such as I talked about flexibility through capabilities and capacities of your machineries and technologies, and also the time perspective, time-based competitions and time-based, and the lean management is also part of the a process to use the flexibility. But again, you can look at the flexibilities of your operations based on the batch size. So if the small batch, your flexibilities can be more customizations. But if you are into a huge batch, continuous processes, for instance, of delivering some steel, productions or fiberboard productions, then we're talking about continuous process from one end to another end, and standardizations would be your way of product flexibility. And then in between, you have maybe different batches of mass productions and assembly line. But if you really want to have this small batch, but in and mass customizations, then probably you have to use some technology such as robots, right? Flexible manufacturing systems with robots will probably give you the mass customizations. Okay, so in terms of the flexibilities, we also can look into structural sense and dynamic sense. So how dynamic, how quickly you move in one end to another end, and fast, quickly you moved, that it will be very efficient, but otherwise dynamic could be very stable, even though it's not that efficient. And structurally, you could be very structured, very routinized structure sense, or a little bit more flexible, okay, and things like that. So if you have, for example, in high flexible manufacturing flexibilities and dynamic, quickly move around, and you can have adaptable, right? Adaptable supply chains rather than stable supply chains or efficient supply chain in terms of the high dynamic and lower dynamic in the low structural flexibilities in sense, meaning it's very high, very structured, right? People look at your factories, oh, it's so structured. And so adaptable supply chains, for instance, you can there are many ways. From here you can look at the dual sourcings, that you can have alternative sourcings from your suppliers. You can have asset sharing with different factories, so that they can either use your, if somebody needs something, maybe they can use your they can use the different distribution centers to depending on the your algorithm and then all the data, and see which one is the optimized way to distribute, right? Because of the availabilities of your product and services, and the roads timings requirements and quality requirements and whatever. So it becomes more adaptable. So your structural flexibility is very dynamic, and that again is very much algorithmic programming. So if you are very skillful in programming, you can extract all this data from your cloud systems and then go through your algorithms programming, computer programming, and then it can give a lot of decisions making and give you the best decision. So the set sharing the factors, the distribution standard is very, very important. Or you can have a stable base productions, so that it becomes very, very stable production, and at the same time, the time that you need to customize, you quickly customize it. So you're turning stable supply chains to be more adaptable. So we are talking about stable base plus postponing your product configuration. So some product you can manufacturers in your country, and then you export it or deliver to another to your own distribution centers or to other distribution centers in another nations, and then from there they can customize it, right? Or we call it vanilla product, vanilla top it up, right? So also known as vanilla product strategy, whereby the generic vanilla product is shipped and before it can be customized into all these different tastes. Okay, and flexible labor requirements, also the same things, rapid manufacturings and local for the local productions. All these are or outsourcing certain contract, and all these are adaptable third-party logistic, right? All these are adaptable. So you can see that from the research perspective, why we are focusing on all these generic extracts construct, because they are so generic and they are so abstract that you can the rest is all imagination. So that's why we call creativity. So how you're going to utilize all the business competency really depends on your creativity, which is your strategy on this construct. So this a construct is a strategy, competitive strategy, and this competitive strategy, to be useful, you have to be creative. And so you have to be creative in, for instance, in dual sourcing, asset sharing, stable base, postponement, flexible labor arrangement, rapid manufacturing, outsourcing, third-party logistic, and local for local production, for lead time advantages. All these are creativity that exploit the business competencies for your commercialization. So again, this page is also really nothing but manifestations of the requirements that I have spread in business model. So these are very, very powerful for those entrepreneur and new venture startup, and also the existing companies, to be able to improve and transform your operations and supply chain system. Okay, and again, many more. You can read to dynamic replacements with through the vendor managed inventory. So you have a vendor distribution. You have the vendor managed distribution center, which is right next door to the customers, where you can quickly, responsively respond to the customer's requirements, right? And that is pretty much similar to the centralized inventory in the sense, and things like that. So again, these are just many different ways. Okay, you can read it by yourselves, all the same. And this same points these are all operations objectives. So again, when we do the operations design, supply chain design in your new venture systems or current existing operation, 5 very generic operations. One of them is the quality, dependability, speed, flexibility, and cost. And cost is at the end, because cost comes from the ability to be flexible, speed, dependability, quality. And quality is when you build the sand, right? So if the bottom is very stable, the most important, right? So if the bottoms collapse, the whole sands collapse. So so therefore, quality is very important. Once you have the quality, then you can then you can do things like deliver on time. Then you can speed up the things. Then you can make it flexible. Then you can control your cost. So the cost controls come from your a set of the SENCON architectures that includes flexibility, speed, dependability, and quality, with the quality as the foundation. Okay, so this so the cost reductions relies on cumulative foundations improvement in all these other performance objectives. So continuous improvement has to be in this pivoted at this SENCON concept. Okay, so we realize that the operations function as a result can provide a competitive advantage through this operations objective, because quality, being right, speed, being fast, dependability, being on time, flexibility, being able to change, cost, being productive, all of these generate differentiation. All of this generates competitive cost leadership. Okay, so things like that. And therefore, by the ability to adapt your operations in the way I just do, so your ability to integrate all the functions of your operational requirements and competencies, your coordination across all the function, your agility in ability to deliver to the requirements differently, product life cycle is responsive, and society's preferences are able to make all these integrations of what I have explained to you in the 5X input, process, outputs, and all this business model. They are able to, if you are able to do that, they are, this is only one node in the business ecosystem, right? So ability to make that one node perfect through the integration, coordination, agility, product life cycles, society preferences of your operations management will be able to make your supply chains and operations flexible, effective, cost efficient, stable, quality effective. Right? This again just a different manifestations of the operations objectives in the supply chains and operation, and that would increase your increase your market share, right, and increase your service level from when you're effective, and decrease your cost, and to when you're stable operation, you mitigate all the uncertainties and disruptions. When you're in quality, it produces quality product. So being flexible help you to increase your market share. Being effective help you to increase your service levels, and all these combinations of performance objective achieve profitability, which means deliver ensuring competitiveness, competitive advantage, sustainability, survival. So we are moving from supply chain and logistic business processes to value proposition to performance. So again, this is really nothing but business model concept. So there is no difference between business model and supply chains concepts and operations management and everything. Really depends on how you understand it and twists and turns, right? And agilities, as I've already explained, if you want to make your supply chain agilities, make sure that incorporate all these 4 characteristics, pivot across these 4 characteristics in your design of operations. One of them is the data transparencies and utilization feature. And the second one is make sure that you are ambidexterity in terms of process integrations and market sensitivity. And also because of the supply chain, make sure that you are network based. So it is really nothing but incorporating all this business model or operations through the supply and demand, which is the market sensitive on the demand side, process integration, plus the membership network base, and then utilize on your data physical isoquant. Okay, so this is your physical network-based process integrations and virtual data isoquant to be able to deliver to the market sensitivities. Okay, so to be market sensitivity, you need to capture the emerging trend. You need to listen to the consumer. You need to put point of sales feedback from your retails, wholesales, and then you manage your inventory. We have talked about it. Vendor manage inventories in the collaborative sense, collaborative product design, synchronous supply or and end-to-end visibilities of your data and information, so that customers can be value co-creating in the sense. Okay, so really depends on whether your supply chains need to be responsive or efficient in your operations. If there is certain trade-off, you need to really balance. And so in your operations, usually the minimum requirements is in your design, on your, especially when we talk about the operations, productions, capacity, design. The 4 things that are very important. One of them is the inventory. Second one is the location, and the and then the third one is the transportation, and the fourth one is the information, and then plus the production. capacity. So all these in combinations will allow you to provide a good operation system. And so in terms of production, the productions will induce a certain types of inventory, which depends on where you want to locate, and the transportations will balance with that locations and will cause the information so that every information is being connected. So there is this information sharing, there is this logistical location transportation issue, and the cost issue, and there is this production and inventory issue, which is the capacity inventory issue, which we have already talked about it. And really depends on your efficiency of responsiveness. Really, you can design your operations and slightly some trade-off. For example, some excess capacity is there so that you can quickly respond to the customers. So there is certain cost disadvantage over there, but you can gain from revenues, right? Flexible manufacturing, and which we have already talked about it, and many smaller factories so that everyone can quickly more closer to the customers and things like that. And efficient is more centralized so that you maybe relies more on the transportation, larger transportations, rather than a fast and flexible mode of transportations and frequent shipment because of your smaller factory. And so this located more closer to the customers rather than you centralize control all these areas. So again, whether and that will determine whether your inventory is high or inventory is low or things like that. Okay, so you can see that this capacity, inventory, location, transportations, information, all these are 5 basic requirements of the operations management system that in combination will deliver your responsiveness, efficiencies, your qualities, and your dependabilities, and your things like that, right? And this is just nothing but on your bring you to the supply chain from the innovation perspective. So we also need we are connecting the supply chain to be a value co-creation, and especially in terms of innovations, value co-creation. So we're talking about there is a value chain, which is the methods, right? So we have idea generations, conversions, and diffusions, which we already talked about it, and then to moving to the markets, which then need knowledge and attitude. So we're talking about knowledge, attitude, and skill, and the skill is the method. So innovation is really nothing but the knowledge that we build in and we share across, or we instill through the virtual, and then the attitudes that we have to get through the orientations and cognitive understanding and culture. And then from there, the rest is the skill, which is the methods that we move across our supply chain ecological system. That would create innovation, value proposition, value chain. So you can see that now we are turning the supply chain operation system into a continuous innovation supply chain. So I hope that this class serves competitive strategies, competencies, and also provide a very clear pictures on business research or theory and data iteration processes, and also that allow some of the concepts to be able to merge and used, such as knowledge management, organizational learning, innovations, diffusions of innovations, and all this issue. Okay, so good luck and best wishes, and thank you for listening, and hope that you benefit a lot from this concise cross multidisciplinary class, spanning management theory all the way to supply chain operations, marketing, branding, consumer behavior, and social responsibility, and business ethics, and innovations, and entrepreneurship, new venture, startup. Okay, so hope that you really benefit.